the not-so-good chicken from America. We don't need American chicken. We have our own chicken business here. Once we start bringing that in overnight, America's $5 billion chicken selling business came crashing down. 94% of chicken shipments got rejected. Over 130,000 tons were left to go bad in shipping ports from Houston to Savannah. Countries that once really wanted U.S. chicken slammed their doors shut. How did something this huge fall apart, almost without any warning? You're going to have to let us sell our chicken and our beef in your stores. We're not stuck following EU rules anymore. We can make our own food rules. So, what do you want? There's an argument that says, if you've ever wondered why American chicken isn't always welcome in countries like China, Japan, or across the European Union, it comes down to one controversial word: chlorine. Yes, chlorine, the same chemical that cleans your swimming pool, is also used to wash chicken in the United States. It's been a normal thing for many years in American chicken processing factories. The idea is simple. By rinsing chicken bodies in chlorine or other germ-fighting liquids, you lower the chance of getting sick from food poisoning like Salmonella and Campylobacter. But while it might sound like a smart cleaning trick, it's caused serious problems with other countries. Certainly. Western, I think, the whole of you anyway. We're the fattest country in Western Europe. But not just America. Well, but we're fat already. No, you don't understand. I do understand. Just because a chicken has been washed in chlorine, it doesn't mean it makes you fat. In many parts of the world, especially in Europe and Asia, this chlorine washing method isn't just disliked, it's completely banned. Their argument is not simply about the chemical itself, but what it stands for. People who don't like this practice say that it hides bad cleanliness, rules during the earlier steps of chicken farming and processing. Instead of making sure things are clean throughout the chicken's life and death, they say the U.S. method relies on a chemical shortcut at the end. In countries like the UK and Germany, for example, food safety rules focus on preventing germs from the start, better living conditions, cleaner killing facilities, and higher overall standards. Washing away the problem at the end doesn't work for them. Georgia State House reporter Abby Kasuris explains. The U.S. Poultry and Egg Council has its main office in Tucker, Georgia, but they have offices all over the world. China has said these same worries loudly, and they've taken action to match. Not only have they said chemical leftovers are a reason for their import bans, but they've also pushed back on what they call a lack of openness in U.S. chicken processing. Japanese and South Korean markets have taken similar positions. For them, food isn't just about price or amount. It's about trust, health, and being able to track where food comes from. And in their view, chlorine-washed chicken doesn't meet that standard. It's important to understand that this isn't just about safety. It's also become a symbol in the ongoing food trade wars. While the U.S. says that chlorine-washed chicken is perfectly safe, many foreign governments see it as a line they won't cross. They point to studies showing that certain germ-fighting rinses could leave behind chemical leftovers, especially if processing is rushed or inconsistent. Though these levels might technically be within the legal safety limit, international markets have become increasingly careful in a post-pandemic world where buyers demand more openness about where their food comes from and how it's made. For American chicken sellers, this has become a huge barrier. Even when the chicken meets all USDA standards, it still gets turned away by countries that have stricter or simply different rules. This controversy isn't new, but in 2025, it became a breaking point. When over 130,000 tons of American chicken were rejected, chlorine washing was one of the top reasons given. And this time, it wasn't just China saying no thanks. Even longtime trade partners that once put up with U.S. practices began closing their doors. Brand new reporting shows that Team Trump is getting ready to put taxes on potentially trillions of dollars worth of goods from all around the world, practically everything that comes into the United States. In early 2025, something happened that sent shockwaves through the American farming industry. More than 130,000 tons of U.S. chicken. Yes, that's not a mistake. 130,000 tons were rejected for export and left sitting frozen and unwanted at two of America's busiest shipping places, the Port of Houston and the Port of Savannah. To put that in perspective, that's enough chicken to feed tens of millions of people. But instead of ending up on dinner tables in Asia, this chicken sat still, turning from valuable product to to financial dead weight in a matter of weeks. As much as Trump says he wants to support American manufacturing, major U.S. companies hate tariffs too. Once again from the New York Times, quote, China gave the most brutal hit. Once the largest buyer of American chicken, Beijing suddenly closed the gates. It wasn't a slow backing away. It was a fast, decisive shutdown. And they didn't just stop at rejecting 1 or 2 shipments. They took away export licenses from hundreds of U.S. processing plants in one sweep, saying they were worried about things like antibiotic leftovers, tracking issues, and unfair trade practices. But that wasn't the end of it. What truly shocked us producers was that this move created a domino effect. They're sold in part, they have about 15% of the mortgage market. So, when they either get fewer dollars because we're buying less stuff, other countries quickly followed China's lead. Japan, which had bought U.S. chicken for years, began pulling back. South Korea, a smaller but still important buyer, paused new orders. Even Taiwan, historically a reliable market, turned to other suppliers. It wasn't just about the quality of the chicken. It was about the loss of trust in the system that delivered it. And just like that, hundreds of containers were stuck with nowhere to go. This created a huge and sudden backup at American ports. These chicken shipments, frozen and sealed, couldn't just be sent somewhere else. Food import standards are different from country to country, and once a batch is rejected for tracking or chemical worries, there's little chance another country will accept it. The ports themselves weren't ready to store this much food that goes bad. Cold storage units filled up quickly. The backup wasn't just a logistics nightmare. It was a money crisis for sellers, trucking companies, cold storage operators, and farmers, who had been counting on these exports to keep their businesses running. So a chlorine wash would reduce any foodborne illnesses. So that's Salmonella or Campylobacter. And countries such as Europe say that they don't use this type of germ reduction treatment. Inside the U.S., the market wasn't ready to take in this sudden overflow either. Local demand didn't magically go up overnight. And even if it did, the logistics of rerouting that much chicken were nearly impossible. With nowhere to go and mounting storage costs, many producers were left with a terrible choice. Either destroy the product or pay out of pocket to keep it frozen forever. Some chose to dig pits and throw away the meat, while others tried selling at steep discounts to save anything they could for a give-and-take trade agreement. Peter Landers is the Asia editor of the Wall Street Journal and joins me now from Singapore. Peter, many thanks for your time. This moment wasn't just about lost chicken. It showed a deeper issue. The collapse showed how fragile and centralized the U.S. chicken export system had become. For years, American farmers and processors relied heavily on a few big markets, mainly in Asia. When those relationships fell apart, there was no backup plan, no alternate buyer, no emergency trade route, no federal response fast enough to save the stock. The system broke, and it broke hard. It's really a game of chicken, where each one is, driving the car at the other one, and Trump does something, and China feels that. I guess its face is at stake, and they must match. While the U.S. was tangled in trade fights and scrambling to handle a collapsing export system, Canada quietly stepped into the spotlight. There were no angry statements or finger-pointing from Canadian officials, no protests, no media shows. Instead, they took quiet, calculated steps that reshaped the global chicken trade in a matter of weeks. And by the time the U.S. realized what was happening, Canada had already sealed the deals, shipped the chicken, and secured its place as Asia's new favorite supplier. This wasn't an overnight miracle. Canada had been paying close attention to the tension building between the U.S. and Asian markets. When Washington introduced aggressive taxes in late 2024, and the first signs of pushback started showing from China, Canadian officials knew an opportunity was coming. They acted fast and efficiently. One of the first moves was launching the Agri-Trachi 25 program in early 2025. This system completely changed how Canadian chicken was tracked. From the moment a chicken left the farm to the minute it arrived at an overseas port, every detail was recorded and stored on a blockchain platform, checked by the Canadian Ministry of Agriculture. It wasn't just paperwork. It was digital proof that every step followed the highest standards of cleanliness, safety, and openness. On top of that, the Canadian government rolled out a massive $350 million emergency aid package specifically for chicken farms. But this wasn't a bailout. It was a growth plan. The money was aimed at farms that were ready to expand, export quickly, and follow strict rules. Processing plants,